Good morning, fourth grade. Welcome back to day 7 of your second packet. Today I'm going to go over with you what you should be doing for each of your subjects. So let me share my screen with you. This is what you should have in front of you, and we're going to start with reading just like we have been doing. So it says, by now you are probably finding that you are spending more time in front of the TV or playing electronic games. Read the article, Breaking from the Online World. As you read, think about the advantages of unplugging from electronics that are listed in this article. Share what you learned with 2 people and then share your opinion about the topic. Do they agree with the author's opinion? Find out why they agree or disagree. So the article that you have in front of you should be Breaking from the Online World to Relax in the Real World. So the first thing that I'm going to do is box in the title, and I'm going to look at this article. I'm going to skim it over to see if it is fiction or nonfiction. So I see a real life photograph here. I see what we call a caption, which is what describes what's happening in the photograph. I see some quotes from some people. I also see headings. So we know that we find headings in what is typically nonfiction text. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write NF here for nonfiction, and I'm going to be thinking about the author's purpose. So when I'm thinking about nonfiction, I know that the author's purpose should be to teach, to inform, to educate, or to give facts. Those could all be synonyms to use to talk about the author's purpose for nonfiction. So now we're going to read the article together, and as we did before, we're going to number the paragraphs. So let me number what I have here. So this is paragraph 1. Some of these are a little odd because they're only one sentence, but we're still going to call them their own paragraph. This is 3 and 4. So we'll just start with that for now. So I'm going to look at the picture and I'm going to read the caption. It says, Image 1. A woman explores her surroundings during the sit spot exercise in a class called Unplug and Recharge in Nature, Rejuvenation and Balance for the Modern Plugged-in Lifestyle at the Wilderness Awareness School in Duval, Washington in August 2015. It tells who took the photograph, Karen Ducey, and it was for the Washington Post via Getty Images. Now we're going to begin reading. Paragraph 1. In my bare feet, I am out in the forest, trying hard to fox walk. I try to move soundlessly and blend in. With my bright blue jacket and orange shirt, I don't think I have fooled any foxes. Maybe I was trying a little too hard. You should have seen your face, my friend Meg said later, bursting out laughing. You had this deep frown of concentration. I wanted to shout out not to take it all so seriously. Meg and I had gone forest bathing with about a dozen other people in the Duval Mountains in Washington state. I had come to write a story on a new fad sweeping high-tech companies in the United States. It is called Shinrin Yoku, and it started in Japan. In it, people who are tired of technology try to relax by walking in the woods. They pay attention to what is around them in the real world, not the virtual one. So when they say not the virtual one, they must be meaning that virtual would be the opposite of what is in the real world. And since the title is called Breaking from the Online World, I'm going to make the connection that online would mean virtual. Let me continue with numbering these paragraphs. So this is paragraph 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I'm also going to box in my heading here. This could be very important when answering text-dependent questions, and we should understand that because this heading is being online is like being trapped in a spider's web, everything that follows that heading before the next heading should be about what that says. This is like the main idea of what will come next. Paragraph 5. I was looking for the same thing myself because I was also stressed out and addicted to technology. Meg is one of my oldest and truest friends and came with me just because it sounded fun. Being online is like being trapped in a spider's web. The forest bathing movement has taken off in a big way, especially among people who work in the high-tech industry. Many people who work for Amazon and Microsoft participate in forest bathing. The Wilderness Awareness School is in Duval, Washington. It started the Unplug and Recharge in Nature program we were attending. Our instructor was Warren Moon, who also runs the school. He said we were like flies caught in a spider's web. A spider injects its prey with poison. The poison does not kill, but its prey cannot move. Moon said tech addiction is similar and lulls you into a kind of waking sleep. I've been struggling with that waking sleep. I can get lost for hours working on a computer, exchanging emails and surfing all over the internet. I have come late to family dinners and gone online instead of taking a walk with my husband. I have even not really listened to my children at times. I'm going to box in this heading, so many lost hours. Everything following this must be about the lost hours of when we're involved with virtual technology. I'm starting with paragraph 10 here. 11, 12, 13, paragraph 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. This line right here is a part of 17. And I'm going to box in my second heading, learning to live in both worlds. Okay, paragraph 10. In the past few years, my relationship with technology has changed. I have learned to respect Twitter and Facebook. They can connect you with people, stories, data, and whole new worlds within seconds. There have been days when I cannot stop checking social media. I hope that the likes and shares will prove I'm worthwhile. When you add it all up, I have lost many hours. They would be better spent thinking, writing, or with actual friends and family. Research shows that people are happier when they limit their time on social media. They do better work and they feel better about life. And on good days, I do that, but not always. Learning to live in both worlds. So using what I've read already, learning to live in both worlds must be like, how do you balance the virtual world and the real life world? Paragraph 14. Warren Moon told us that sometimes we can go into the woods and find ourselves. He asked us to just look around and see the forest. In the morning, Meg relaxed and let her imagination wander, seeing shapes in the trees. I, on the other hand, had been trying too hard to be perfect at forest bathing. In the afternoon, I fox walked off the path into the sunlight. Suddenly exhausted, I lay down on my back on a bed of dead leaves. I watched the pine trees wave in the breeze, and I listened as their needles fell onto the leaves below. Like anything in life, I know I have to change. I have to find a way to connect, to share, to friend, and to like in my own way. Likewise, I have to find the joy in the online world and know when it is time to go for a walk in the real one. Perhaps if I keep coming back to the woods, I can learn how to live better in both worlds. Here's another photograph. It shows the woods and somebody that looks like they're enjoying outside. So that is the end of our text. So we want to talk about what are some advantages. That was your assignment. So when we're thinking about advantages, we're thinking about benefits of unplugging from electronics. Meaning we're not plugging into electronics. So what you would be doing was finding text evidence to support your thinking. In order to do that, you have to go back into the text. Once you do that, you are supposed to be sharing what you learned with at least 2 people and then sharing your opinion about the topic. First, maybe telling them, do you agree or disagree and why? And then seeing if they agree with the author's opinion, why or why not. So I have already gone back into the text to figure out an advantage or a benefit of unplugging from electronics. And I found in this part of the text, it says in paragraph 13 under the heading, so many lost hours, research shows that people are happier when they limit their time on social media. So to limit would be to restrict it, so you're not on it all the time. They do better work and they feel better about life. And on good days, I do that, but not always. So what is an advantage of unplugging? I said that people or myself would feel happier and work harder or better because I'm not consumed or taken over, obsessed with social media. My evidence was I found that in this paragraph, paragraph 13, under the heading So Many Lost Hours. So you want to go back and look at those advantages, maybe list them first, and then share what you learned with 2 people about what you read today, including what is your opinion about it. The next part of the literature piece of day 7 is your writing. So it asks you to spend 20 minutes outside and then write about your experience. When you're writing about your experience, you're using 4 out of the 5 of your senses. So you should be describing when you're outside. You can take a piece of paper with you and jot it down. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? And what do you feel or touch while you're outside? Then you are to answer the question, did the time outside make you feel more relaxed? Yes or no? And why or why not? So I wouldn't just say, yes, I was more relaxed. You want to go ahead and explain why you would be more relaxed or why you might not have found it more relaxing. Then the text suggests that if you did find it more relaxing outside, spend time outside every day. So be intentional about that instead of being on your electronics all the time. So that closes out the literature piece of day 7. Now we are going to move into math. So as always, you're going to choose one of the math games from either packet to play with at least one partner, somebody in your house. Write the name of the game that you choose. It can be a game of your choice. It can be one you've played before. You can try a new one out. Then yesterday, you had this problem. This would be a review from day 6. It says Molly, Jasmine, Ronald, and Peter ran a race. Below are their times. So we have time 1 in minutes is 1 and 45 hundredths. Time 2 would be 1 and 8 hundredths. Then we have 1 and 126 thousandths and 1 and 7 tenths. Those are decimals, and I'm using my knowledge of place value to read those numbers. So it says Ronald finished right before Jasmine. Jasmine finished 3rd. Peter was not last. So they're giving you 3 pieces of information. You're going to match the times with who the runner was. Well, we have 4 people. So one of them we're going to have to figure out what that person was based on the other 3 pieces of information. Now, remember, it says solve the following problem on paper and explain your thinking using pictures, numbers, and words. So I have already solved this problem, and I'm going to go over what I did to solve the problem. Key pieces, important pieces of information that they give to you right here. So Ronald is finishing right before. So he's the person before Jasmine. Jasmine is 3rd, and Peter's not last. So now we have to figure out their times. So this is what I did. I know that when I'm trying to figure out these times, I need to line up the decimals and compare the times to see which one actually finished first, which was 2nd, which was 3rd, and which was 4th. When I'm thinking about time, the shorter distance would be the person who finishes, or I'm sorry, the shorter time would be the person who finishes first. So I set up my places, and you may not have graph paper at home, which is fine. You can turn your paper sideways and use the columns to act as place value holders. So I have my ones place, my tenths, my hundredths, and my thousandths. When I'm lining up decimal numbers, I line up the decimals first, and then I'm filling in any empty spaces with zeros. So you can see in the first number, the thousandths place, I filled in a 0, thousandths place a 0. 1 in 126 thousandths, that went to the thousandths, and then 1 in 7 tenths, I had to fill in the hundredths and the thousandths place, just to make it easier for me to see that each place, in fact, does have a holder, even if it's a 0. Okay, so I started in the ones place. They are all 1, so I crossed them out and I went to the tenths. I have a 4, a 0, a 1, and a 7. So I know my 0 is my smallest, so I crossed out this number, 1 in 8 hundredths, and I gave it a number 1. That was the shortest time, so that was the person who would be first, okay? So I'm not thinking about people yet, though. I just put a 1. Now, I had a 4, a 1, and a 7 left. 1 is the next biggest, so I gave it a 2. That would finish 2nd. Then I have a 4, which would finish 3rd, and a 7, which would be in last place because that time was the longest, 1 7/10. So I'm looking at the information that they give to me. Ronald finishes before Jasmine. Jasmine finishes third. So I actually put Jasmine third because they're telling you her place first. So I have Jasmine finishing third. I'm gonna cross this out. And I already put her name next to the 3. Then it says Peter wasn't last, so I know he can't be 4th, but it says Ronald finishes right before Jasmine. Well, if I know Jasmine's 3, Ronald must be 2 because it is right before. So I then labeled Ronald. So I have Jasmine as 3 and Ronald as 2. Well, that leaves me with Peter, and I have the numbers 1 and the numbers 4 left. He can't be last, so he must be first. So Peter is first and Molly is 4th. Now, in addition to what I just explained, I remind myself that the shortest, the smallest, or the least time is the person who's going to finish first, the winner. The longest time will be the first person who finishes last. And then I just drew these dots, and I had the start and the finish. This is where they start the race. This is where they finish. And when I'm looking at the numbers up here, Peter finished first, so he's going to be closest to the finish line. Right behind him is Ronald. Then Jasmine is 3rd, leaving Molly 4th. So that's my picture that I drew. Now, yours may not look identical to this. The strategy that you would use, I would think would be comparing these numbers and ordering these numbers. That's what we've talked about in class. So ordering them from least to greatest and then figuring out your pictures based on what you're comfortable with. Okay? All right. So next, it says to visit Dreambox and play for at least 20 minutes. Give the name of the games you played. If you're still having difficulty with Dreambox, please email your teacher. There are explicit instructions of how to log on to that. Now, today's math problem. Today, which Ms. Portia will be going over tomorrow, your math problem is this. Jacob and his family were moving into a new house, and he wanted to pick his bedroom. Which bedroom should he pick? Write a statement to persuade him, so try to convince him to pick the room you selected. So they give you bedroom 1 is 12 by 13, bedroom 2 is 13 by 11, and bedroom 3 is 14 by 9. These are dimensions of bedrooms. You are choosing the bedroom that you think he should pick. So the hint that I gave to you was not everyone may want the same size room. Some of us want a small room, some of us want a medium-sized room, and others may want a big room. So you're trying to figure out, how would you use those dimensions to decide the size of the room that you want? And I want you to be thinking about length and width. What have we learned in class to help you figure out what those rooms would look like using length and width? Okay, so you will have that ready to go for when Ms. Portia goes over it tomorrow. That closes out our math portion. And we are now moving into science. You will have this all in front of you. I have kind of broken this into 2 pieces to make it bigger on the screen for us to go over together. So today we're talking about weather tools. And you learned a little bit about weather tools when Miles Henderson came in and spoke to you all in the gym earlier this year. So this will be a little bit of a review. Weather tools, it says how hot or cold is it? How strong is that wind? You need the right tools to tell. What do many of us do every morning? We check the weather forecast. Will we need an umbrella, warm gloves? Before we can learn more about the weather, let's learn about the tools used to measure it. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. People who study the weather depend on special instruments or tools to help them understand what has happened and to forecast what will happen. Thermometers and anemometers tell us about something that is happening right this very second, how hot and how windy it is. Barometers measure air pressure and help us predict future weather patterns. Rain gauges tell us about how much rain has already fallen in an area. Scientists read these tools and then input all their data into computers, which help them fine-tune their predictions. So they show you pictures of what these look like. This on the right-hand side is a barometer. And they tell you how to pronounce it in case you forget underneath it. It says, imagine a bathroom scale that can weigh the air around us. That's a bit like what a barometer does. It measures air pressure, the weight of the atmosphere. Inside the case, there is an airtight metal box. If the air pressure around it drops or gets lower, the box expands a little. As the box expands or contracts, a spring moves a pointer on the dial down or up. The dial has numbers and sometimes little illustrations of clouds or sun. The higher the air pressure, the drier the weather is likely to be. Weather reporters say the barometer is rising when the weather will be nice. When the barometer is falling, nasty weather often awaits. So they're showing you low pressure, medium pressure, and high pressure. And if you've seen this on the news, sometimes you'll see on the weather map, it'll be a blue H or it will be a red L to tell you about what the air pressure will be like, because both of those predict different types of weather. Okay, what you're probably more familiar with on the left is a thermometer. This device measures the temperature of the air and tells us how hot or cold it is. Most thermometers are long and skinny with a bulb and thin tube filled with either red alcohol or silver mercury. Both alcohol and mercury expand when they are heated and shrink when they are cool. When the temperature rises, the expanding liquid has no place to go but up the glass tube. The liquid shrinks and lowers back down when the air temperature cools. Round thermometers work slightly differently and are not quite as accurate, but many homeowners like the way that they look. And there's a picture of a round one on the bottom. Okay. On the right-hand side of the paper that you have in front of you is what they're calling weather watchers. So first I'm going to read NOAA et al., the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, has several satellites to keep an eye on our weather. Some hovering over Earth's equator are 35,500 kilometers up. Others fly over the poles at only 850 kilometers up. Measurements from both are used for predicting weather. Okay, weather watchers. Some weather stations are on rooftops. Others, like NOAA's satellites, fly thousands of kilometers above the Earth. Sensors and cameras aboard the satellites scan the Earth and its atmosphere. They can track fast-breaking thunderstorms across America's heartland that might turn into tornadoes. With an eye on the tropical Atlantic, they can detect stormy areas called tropical depressions that might evolve into hurricanes. Evolve meaning to turn into. When big forest fires burn or volcanoes erupt, weather satellites keep an eye on them as well. We depend on these eyes in the sky and the meteorologists who gather the data to warn us of dangerous weather. And the last two weather tools that they talk about is an anemometer and a rain gauge. So on the left-hand side, an anemometer. How windy is it? This device measures wind speed and direction. The most common kind of anemometer measures wind speed using 3 or 4 cups attached to a pole. As the cups catch the wind, they spin. Wind speed is measured in miles or kilometers per hour, just like your car's travel speed. The arrow with the big tail points into the wind so that you can record the direction of the wind. A west wind means that it is blowing from the west toward the east. Airline pilots and boaters are especially aware of wind speed reports from areas in which they might travel. No one wants to be caught at sea in dangerous winds. There's a picture right here of the anemometer. See the little cups on the bottom that just spin and spin and spin to tell you about the wind speed. Oops. Let me go down a little bit here. And let's learn about the rain gauge. To gauge means to measure. A rain gauge measures the rain that has fallen since the last measurement. Rain falls into a large cylinder that drains through a funnel into a graduated cylinder that has a measurement markings on the side. Measurements are made in inches or millimeters. Snow gauges measure snowfall. As you know, rain, snow, and hail are all water, so they're all a form of precipitation. When there is too much rainfall, we get flooding. When there's too little, we call it a drought. In between is what we like best. Why do we measure precipitation? Well, it says that farmers like to know if they need to give more water to their crops. People who control our drinking water supplies might ask us to use less if there has been a drought. It's always a good idea to conserve water. And there is a picture of the rain gauge and the cylinder that they were talking about. So when you're looking at the graduated cylinder, which is inside of here, this, the way that you're measuring it, start at the bottom would start your 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and going up. So you would measure in inches or millimeters that way. Okay, so your assignment for today for science said to read the text titled Weather Tools, specifically the information about thermometer, barometer, anemometer, and rain gauge. We did that. And then complete numbers 1 through 6 of the weather instruments workshop. So that is this right here that I have on the screen. So you only have to do 1 through 6 today because tomorrow you're doing the other piece of it, okay? So you're going to use the text that we read, or you're going to go to the website weatherwizkids.com, click on the weather link, and then the weather instruments tab at the top of the page. Read the page to learn more about weather tools. Be sure to click on the tabs listed to the left of the screen, which say instruments, radar, etc., to access even more information. So you can use the text or this website, or you can use both. Read the information about weather instruments and draw a picture of your favorite weather instrument. So in this box where it says instrument name and what it is used for, that's where you're going to put what is the name, what is it used for, and you're going to draw your picture, and then you're going to answer questions 2 through 6. So I wanted to show you quickly, in case you didn't see it, what the website looks like. So this is what the website looks like. So it says weather instruments. The tabs they were talking about are over here. So weather instruments is the first one. Then you have radar. Then you have weather instrument activities. So if you go to just weather instruments, which is the page that you'll come to first, it will go over again and give you more information about thermometer, barometer. They have additional one in there. A rain gauge, an anemometer. They also have a wind vane. Again, windsock, weather maps, other things that you don't necessarily need to know about to answer these questions, but you can use this website to help you as well if you want. Okay, so use the website link to investigate the topic as you complete the workshop, or refer to Weather Tools text and answer as many questions as you can. Again, only do 1 through 6 for today. All right, and that wraps up today. Hopefully we will see you back tomorrow. We miss you, and we hope you have a wonderful Tuesday.